But let's have calls on whether the BBC should pay compensation to President Trump. Do ring us 0207 862 2222. BBC has apologised to Trump for a misleading edit of his speech on January the 6th, 2021. They admitted the clip in a Panorama documentary last year gave the mistaken impression that Trump had made a direct call for violent action on the US Capitol. The programme won't be shown again, we're told. Trump's lawyers had threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion unless it issues a retraction, makes an apology and pays compensation. On the last point, though, the compensation, the corporation said they strongly disagree that there's any basis for a claim. Let's just remind ourselves of the original clip of Trump's speech.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
And this is how it looked on Panorama.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for, it's a bad one. There was a gap of 50 minutes between the two. The only defence possible is the thrust of what he did that day was to cause a riot. That's the defence. Would you say that, actually?
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't have $1 billion, Trump.
So,
yeah,
but I mean,
that's what I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
but
think
that's what he was being prosecuted for.
His behaviour was disgraceful. I think his behaviour, instead of calming, actually, fueled the furor.
But now here we are with the BBC saying we shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. We apologise. That's what they're saying. But we're not paying you compensation. What do you think of that?
I think they're absolutely right. What are they paying him compensation for? What harm has Donald Trump suffered? He's got an apology. Heads have rolled. Significant heads have rolled. That's the end of the story. Move along.
There's been another accusation of the BBC doing a misleading edit of the same thing. This was on Newsnight in 2022. So the Telegraph has now uncovered this.
We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
So at the time when that went out, the clip was called out by a guest who was the former White House chief of staff and Trump critic, Mick Mulvaney.
Your video actually spliced together the presentation. He said, we're going to go down and we're going to cheer on our senators and our House members. And then it actually goes on to say, in some of them we might not be able to. And that line about it, we fight and fight like hell, is actually later in the speech. And yet your video makes it look like those two things came together. That's the type of messaging here that so many people in my country find frustrating, is that it's hard to actually get the facts.
And of course, what's happened is Trump's legal people have now said, well, this shows this is deliberate, this stuff.
Well, it's hard to watch that and think that there isn't some element of design behind it. And it's perfectly possible to completely agree with every single thing Paula says about his behaviour on that day led to those violence, if that's what you believe, and the documentary was making that point. It's perfectly possible to make those points without purposely manipulating a clip so it misrepresents the president as he personally called for it. It is completely wrong.
Sure.
And actually, this is
compensation is what we're discussing.
I would support compensation. And the reason I would support compensation isn't because, look, it's ultimately us who are going to pay for it, right? Do I want to give money to America? Absolutely not. But it's because the BBC has not learned a lesson. I don't know what you have to do to make them learn. When Davey, the Director General who's resigned, came in, let's not forget, he came in on the back of the Jimmy Savile scandal, and he was supposedly going to clear out the BBC. We've had the Hugh Edwards scandal. We've had the Gary Lineker scandal. We've had the Gaza documentary scandal. We've had the bullying allegations in Strictly. Now we have this splicing completely misleadingly, in my view, potential attempt to manipulate sort of elections, but people would have different views on that. And yes, they've apologised, but they've apologised for everything else as well. And they haven't changed their behaviour. So maybe them having to pay a small amount to a veterans charity or something like that would finally enable them to learn their lessons, to stop this biased partisan reporting.
No, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. It's not my job to. Andrew in London, hello.
Hi, Jeremy. It's really, I'm so proud of the BBC for standing up to this tyrant. And the thing about it's like Al Capone walking into a cake shop and disagreeing with them, saying, I'm going to buy everybody a lolly. Listen, this man encouraged, even though they made edited mistakes, he encouraged people to riot, and people died. And Jake Berry is just Nigel Farage's mouthpiece. Because Nigel Farage and people like him do not want the BBC. This is our BBC. We should not pay that man one penny. He's a convicted felon, a liar, an arsonist, and every other name you'd like to think of, which is bad.
Let's just hear this clip, because I think Trump is. Let me just hear what Trump. I know we had Trump. Trump did the equivalent of the Corbyn thing, where he reads out the words "strong passage here." Trump did that at that event we're just watching there, where he said, "Insert name here."
Oh God!
So insert name here.
Maybe people are happy to pay their licence fee, to pay the wages of sex offenders like Jimmy Savile, or pay people like Hugh Edwards, who's a proven and convicted paedophile. Maybe people are happy to pay their licence fee. I think they have to be taught a lesson, because we get apology after apology after apology.
Paula.
Nothing ever changes.
Being very careful so I don't get sued again, but we haven't had the complete Epstein files released yet, so I think we should wait until we do in relation to those and all those very powerful people who appear in that. That's not the basis upon which compensation is provided for. I'm not a libel lawyer, but generally speaking, you get compensation when you have been harmed. What is the harm that has been done to Trump's appalling reputation? None whatsoever. He needs to jog on. And when we look at how Trump has attempted to take over, to control, to abuse, to bully other news stations, news networks, it's disgraceful.
There's a lot. We did a list the other day of all ABC, Paramount, Disney, you name it. Andrew, thank you. Cameron in Kent, should the BBC pay compensation?
100%. I think it's far worse than that. And I just think, just talking then, I think it's quite sad to hear that you're turning around saying that, Trump's got a bad reputation, so it doesn't matter that the BBC have committed crimes yet again.
I don't think that's quite what was being said here. It's the libel law point that if you steal a bag of salt and vinegar crisps and someone says you stole cheese and onion, you can't sue them because actually you're a crisp stealer. So Paula's point is Trump encouraged that violence, therefore he cannot be angry that someone
he wasn't actually convicted of it, though, was he?
No.
But
he said we're going to turn. Okay, I don't want to go over it without notes here, but basically we're all going to turn up and it's going to be a wild day. I mean, go figure, as they say. Cameron.
Yeah, but the point is that the BBC always do stuff like this. Like, let's go back to the whole Tommy Robson Panorama. They caught them clear as day lying and paying for people to go against and try and frame people. Like, this happens all the time.
Which one was that?
When there was some undercover
Panorama that got put out on YouTube.
There was undercover. Sorry,
the
Cameron.
Undercover report and that.
There was an undercover report with Stephen Yaxley Lennon where he was recorded as saying certain things.
Oh, OK.
And that's what he's referencing. And I'm being careful because there was a court case.
All right, fine. OK, Cameron, thank you so much for that. I did appreciate your comments. Catherine in Newport, what do you think?
Well, I just think that we shouldn't be paying any compensation. I feel Trump's just a great big bully who tells lots and lots of lies. He creates fake news all the time, and yet when so-called fake news is brandished about him, he doesn't like it, and he's just a child.
But maybe Jake's right. He wasn't convicted of inciting the Capitol riot, so in law he's not guilty of inciting the Capitol riot, and that's the end of it.
Well, yes, and he has, I'm sorry, but the BBC, love them or loathe them, yes, they've made mistakes. Heads have rolled and they have fallen on their swords. So I think just get over it, Trump. Come on, stop being a baby. OK,
thank you very much, Catherine. After the break, it's the papers and everything else, including the latest celebrity to take on a phone snatcher. We'll see you very shortly.